Now, I warned you that, again, I believe that the intermediate wave 5 of crash wave 3 has begun. It still might be possible that intermediate wave 4 is not done and we go up here. I think it's more likely we're going to sell off at the Fed and we're going to get this crash wave 3 completing with intermediate wave 5. And I think you have minor wave 1 done. I think minor wave 2 might be completing here. As I've talked about, we're completing at this trend line, this dotted blue trend line right here so far. About reaching the 200 period or reaching this trend line and then turning down. If we go a little higher, then maybe intermediate wave 4 is not done. My guess is, though, we're starting this minor wave 3 now of intermediate wave 5 of crash wave primary wave 3, the blue count here, which, again, I've talked about that I think you get a push down to 74,000, likely just beyond it with that. I think you have primary wave 1 here, primary wave 2. I think you have intermediate wave 1, 2, intermediate wave 3, 4, probably done, and you're now starting this 5-leg push lower for intermediate wave 5 to complete primary wave 3. Then I think you'll get a rally back up surrounding the holidays, probably Christmas and New Year's. You probably sell off as we get the holiday trading. Bitcoin will bottom up and try to rally back up. And then after the holidays, we'll likely get one more dump into January. And that's when I think the Fed will panic. We'll see if it plays out that way. But I've been predicting this a long time, this decline right here. And it's been playing out beautifully. The experts telling us, oh, we got the bottom and here we go. And again, we're forming a bear flag. This is not the bottom. 80,000 is not the bottom. The mathematically based indicators are telling us we're in a bear market and this is not the bottom. Okay, we're going to see bottom likely develop by January, but this is going to go on for another at least 10 months. We've now, what are we in at? Week 10 since I called the top over here. And again, I told you, likely drop into January. Get a big, massive bear market rally. Massive. And probably going back to the 90,000 range to the 100,000, low 100,000 area. Then you drop. And again, this is going to go on another 10 months, maybe longer. I think it'll go on longer because you're going to have a recession. You're going to have the stock market getting a dot-com style bust. This can go on into 2027. You're going to have a banking crisis. So just be aware of this. Again, if we do go higher, then wave 4 is not done. I don't think it goes above 98,900, as I've said. If it does end up doing that, which I don't think it's going to, I don't think it goes above 103,600, which is this level here. That would mean that we already have primary wave 3 done here. This is primary wave 4. If we try to rally initially with the Fed but then sell off, yes, you're selling off right here to complete primary wave 3, but that is my alternative count. Then I think you get primary wave 4, and then I think you get one more dump for primary wave 5. Back at the top, I warned you about the Wyckoff model. Again, playing out beautifully here with this false breakout. And again, we've followed this thing pretty much spot on, pretty close, not perfectly, but pretty close. This is why I was predicting a rally here. We've got it. I think you're going to get another drop. If we continue to follow the Wyckoff model, you're going down to 74,000. You're giving back all of the gains. That's what the Wyckoff model is suggesting, which I think we're going to continue to follow it. But this is why I predicted the rally before it happened. Told you we were going to get a rally. Told you it might go on into the Fed meeting. Told you a rally up. Everybody was going to become convinced that the sell-off was over, and then we're going to get another rug pull. Posted this chart at the top. It's played out beautifully just shortly after we peaked, and again, broke the trend line, the bear flag. We've had a series of bear flags. We now have another one. Again, predicting a 74,000 to 63,000 target range. 41% drop is 74,000, 50% drop is 63. The last bear market, we went down 52%. That would take us down to 60,000. I think you're going to drop closer to 50%. May not be quite that much. This is my target window. And again, I'm going to turn very, very bullish down here. This is where I'm going to be looking to close short positions and go long, flip the trade. And I think you get a rally back up for a right shoulder. And when that happens, what does Ethereum do? What do altcoins do? And that's what I'll be talking about in this video. I guarantee they move to new highs, but you could see a pretty spectacular rally if we get this bear market rally with Bitcoin. Laughed at and mocked for posting this chart, but yet, oh gee, I've been right. I've been called every name in the book, and yet I continue to be right. Because I really don't care which way Bitcoin goes. I'm a trader. I got very, very bullish down here at the April low, calling the bottom. I got a key support. I got very, very bearish here at resistance, calling a top. And again, People in the crypto community don't have the ability to be objective. Most of them are a bunch of perma bulls. Well, I got bearish up here. I'll be getting bullish down here as far as my swing trading, and I'll be looking to ride that up, and then I'll be getting bearish again back up here somewhere when I see evidence of a top. That's my trading strategy, not a recommendation to buy or sell anything. Just telling you what my strategy is, because when we get down here, I'm going to turn bullish. Now, right now, bears like what I'm saying. They're going to hate me down here when I turn bullish. Perma bears, they're going to hate me, okay? Perma bulls, they'll love me again. But then I'm going to disappoint them, because I'm going to be telling them we're going to get a massive rally, but it's going to make it lower high. And no, there's no way. Here we go. And they're going to become convinced that here we go. The sell-off that they told us was never going to happen is over. So right now the bears love me. They're not going to like me down here. And the bulls will like me for a while, but they're not going to like the message that I have. Whoops, sorry about that. But they will like the fact that I'm turning bullish and predicting a massive rally. Please support the channel with the link directly below. That allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like my charts, you like my indicators, let me know that by supporting the channel. I don't have any sponsors, just a direct relationship with you. So I just ask that you do what you can to help out, rather than try to sell you something or send you to some exchange that wants to wipe you out, or who even knows with some of these exchanges, you never know if they're going to go belly up. So please consider following the link below to take you to a secured site, and you can donate any amount you want. If you would take a moment to do that, I would really, really appreciate it. Anything helps. Again, most YouTube channels get sponsors. I choose not to do that. I just ask that you, if you like my indicators, this is the stuff I look at every day to make my Bitcoin trading decisions. If you like that kind of cutting edge information, the information that has been spot on correct, let me know that by supporting the channel. Again, the daily Elliott wave count. Again, I think you have primary wave 1, 2. I think you've got intermediate wave 1, 2, 3. I think this is intermediate wave 4, likely done or about to finish, probably done. And we've likely started intermediate wave 5, go down here to 74,000. That'll finish primary wave 3. I think over the holidays, you'll get a bounce. Primary wave 4. Lighter volume surrounding Christmas and New Year's, and then I think come after the New Year we get one more dump into January, likely again closer to 50%, 63,000. I've marked it here. Maybe we don't get quite that low or move just beyond it, but again, is my target level between 63,000, 74,000. 74,000 low would suggest that we've got primary wave 3 already completed here. This is primary wave 4, and we get a divergence that gives us primary wave 5. I'm open-minded to that. That's my alternative wave count. I think this is more likely. I think you get this massive rally back up. This would be about a 53% rally that could take us back up again towards a 50% retracement. If we drop down that low, this could change depending on where we bottom. You're going to be moving back up to the 200 period moving average eventually, wherever that comes in, whether just above 100,000 or just below it. We'll be watching. Currently, it's still above 100,000. We'll be watching the 200 period moving average here in the daily time frame. But again, I've posted this chart. People keep laughing at me, mocking me, but yet, oh gee, I continue to be right. Down here, I'll get very, very bullish in all likelihood when I see evidence of a bottom. I think you'll get a rally up into the first quarter here, maybe on early into the second quarter into April, but I think you'll rally from January to March, maybe on into April. I'll be looking to go short up here near the 200 period, wherever that comes in, and I've marked two different scenarios here, one towards the 50% retracement, one towards the 61.8 fib here in the daily time frame. I think that will give us a lopsided head and shoulders pattern, lower than the peak over here at 107, 108,000 or whatever. And I think this will be the bear market rally. Now, if this bear market rally happens, you might see altcoins do rather well and Ethereum do rather well. I don't know that they diverge with Bitcoin. I'm talking about that in this video, but there's that possibility. I think it's more likely we get massive bear market rallies. So you could see a big, big rally with altcoins, but they're likely going lower before that happens. It's true for Ethereum. Watch the video all the way through. You'll see Solana, you'll see Ethereum talking about some of these things. Watch the video all the way through. I'll be talking about altcoins. I'll be talking about Ethereum. Show you the charts of Ethereum and Solana. Will they bottom before Bitcoin? Will they go try to make new highs? I'll be talking about these things and what has happened in the past. Bitcoin does not have a divergence. It's still going to go lower. We're likely seeing the lower high, and we're likely in the final fifth wave of crash wave 3. Is no divergence. We're likely going to sell off into December here. I think that surrounding the holidays, Christmas, New Year's, you'll get a rally back up, and then you're going to get more selling at the beginning of January, after the new year and the holidays. I think Fed will panic, and I think the stock market will play catch up to Bitcoin. There's no divergence on the MACD. There's no divergence on the RSI. You likely will not bottom until you see that. We are forming a bear flag. I heard the so-called experts that never saw this coming. They told us we had a breakout at the top. It was a fake out. I told you that. When I called the top, they said, it's a breakout, buy it. We collapsed 36%. And then we had the largest liquidation in history, and it's a bottom, and we moved to new lows, and then we rallied up, got the final exit point, back tested the trend line, and moved to new lows. Oh, that's the bottom, and we rallied, and we back tested the breakdown of the head and shoulders, and moved to new lows, and now they're convinced. And again, I'm seeing posts out there. I saw one guy, everybody's panicking, and I've called the bottom here. You can't even imagine what's about to happen. And again, these people are they're not going to be right. Bitcoin has confirmed a bear market in the daily, the weekly, and the monthly time frame. It's not going to move to new highs. Closed below, 2 consecutive closes below the 50-week moving average, confirming a bear market. As we saw here in the weekly time frame, we saw 2 consecutive closes below that green line, the 50-week moving average. Every time that's happened, you've never gone and made new highs until you first tested and dropped down to the 200-week moving average in Bitcoin's history. Right now we're trying to bounce off the 100-week moving average. We're back testing the trend line, and likely Bitcoin is going to move closer to this 200-week. Eventually, I think it drops 40 to 50%, as I've said. 50% drop is 63,000. This is right around 56,000, so we may move towards it, but then rebound back up and get a larger back test of this trend line, as I've talked about, or a throwback towards it anyways. We have a 50-50 sell signal. We're below the 50 level on the RSI. We're below the 50-week moving average, what I call a 50-50 sell signal. That's not good. Confirmation of a bear market with 2 consecutive closes below the 50-week moving average. The RSI is confirming that. People are still in denial. We have a confirmed bear market in the daily, the weekly, and the monthly time frame. If you watch my videos, of my last 7 videos, I've talked about these signals. I've talked about the 4-year cycle being confirmed. And yet people, I had somebody tell me today how everything I'm saying is totally wrong. QE is about to start, and quantitative tightening's ending. Fed is about to bring back QE, and all this stuff. These people are delusional. We're about to move into recession. Bitcoin's starting to price in that recession. It's absolutely incredible. But let's see, I've been right about the top. I was right about this divergence. I was right about, and again, we have a divergence right here. Ethereum didn't have that, by the way. So again, I'll be talking about Ethereum in this video. Divergence I talked about, we turned off the trend line from the 2021 highs. 1, 2, and 3 strikes, you're out. We had to clear this level in order to go to the Fibonacci extension levels, as I talked about over and over again. But people want me to still be bullish, even though I see evidence of a top, which I talked about this at the day of the top. This is why I think that we've topped. Going a top, predicting the bear market is going to start with this crash. The same thing's present when I called the last top in 2021. And again, divergence is in the daily time frame as well there. Confirmed a bear market on November 23rd. At the end of November, it confirmed a bear market in the monthly time frame and dropping below the 10-month moving average, the MACD rolling over. That was a Johnny-come-lately signal there on the MACD. Talked about all of this in my recent updates. Bitcoin's never moved to a new high after confirming a bear market, getting 2 consecutive closes below the 50-week moving average, like what we had over here before, like we had right there, before dropping down. Didn't go make new highs. It rallied back up to the 50-week and then eventually hit that 200, had the bear market before we ever went and made new highs, which has been the way it's played out with Bitcoin. Every time we confirm a bear market with 2 consecutive closes below the 50-week. You get a close below the 50-week, and then you get confirmation of the bear market with another close below it. More about Bitcoin later. Now, I want to talk about Bitcoin. I'll try to work in Ethereum. I'm being asked about Ethereum. I just want to say again, the narrative now, and we've got a new hoax out, by the way. The new hoax out is you got B of A. Let me just say this. The new hoax out is that the Fed is starting QE in January. And it's a hoax. Another Moonboy hoax. It's fake news. B of A is predicting the Fed intervenes in the banking system again. We've been seeing early signs of banking stress, and I posted this on King of the Charts on X. Go read it there. Explain why the Moon Boys are telling us that we're going to have QE starting. The Fed has not said this. B of A is predicting this. B of A is predicting that the Fed will start buying around $45 billion in short-term Treasury bills monthly, starting in January 2026. A reserve management purchase program to inject liquidity and to stabilize money markets. This is not QE. This is not the Fed announcing it. This is B of A predicting this will happen. And they think the Fed is going to be successful. And B of A also thinks there's no AI bubble. Even if the Fed does this, again, it is not QE. They're pumping money. They're injecting money into the banking system to try to stabilize it. We're seeing the largest injection in 5 years because they're trying to stave off a crisis, a banking crisis. They're not going to be successful. I'm seeing all these posts about, oh, the QE, it's starting up. Here we go. And again, this is what they said when the Fed was pumping money into the banks previously. Over the last several weeks here, they've been doing that. They're doing that to try to prevent a banking crisis. We're going to have one. Commercial real estate sector is having all kinds of problems. That's going to spill over into the banks and create a banking crisis with these sour loans and their exposure to the banks exposure to commercial real estate through mortgage-backed securities and directly through loans with the regional banks. We're going to have another banking crisis. People are just blind, and they're calling, what the Fed is doing, been doing, and they're calling this prediction from B of A, oh, QE is coming back, and this is not QE. And what the Fed did with the banks is not QE. But in the Moonboy hoax world, down is up and up is down. So again, crazy. B of A is predicting the Fed will do this by January, this reverse mortgage purchases. The Fed will buy these short-term treasuries to manage reserves. And again, reserves are at record lows here. So this is not a new quantitative easing program. The liquidity injection is similar to QE in releasing dollars, but its stated purpose is to stabilize the purpose is system stability, as I wrote here, not economic stimulus. And again, B of A is predicting the Fed will take steps to stabilize the banking system, not start QE. But yet, the Moo Boys are running around, oh, QE is starting, here we go. And it's all over X, all over the place, all over social media. Absolutely incredible. And then again, the herd believes, oh, quantitative tightening just ended, so that means QE is starting. No, it doesn't. Now, the Fed is going to probably do jumbo cuts, I believe, by January. They're going to panic. The stock market's going to play catch up to Bitcoin being down in December and January. And if I'm wrong about January, and I have the guts to tell you what I think it's going to be January. If I'm wrong, I think it will be in that first quarter. If we don't see them do it in January, it would be February, March. But they're going to do it, and we're going to see it. But the stock market has to play catch up to Bitcoin. That's why I think Bitcoin gets another couple legs down in December and January. So be aware of this Moonboy hoax. He's starting. Oh, here we go. These people are just out to lunch. They are just delusional. Also, I posted another post. I posted this over the weekend, and I posted some more today again about the unwinding of the yen carry trade and liquidity. The tightening of global liquidity is about to happen. The Moon Boys are telling us, oh no, the Fed's about to pump all this money, liquidity, and liquidity is back. That's what somebody said, and I commented on that. You can see again my posts on King of the Charts on X. The herd believes liquidity is back, when in reality, we're starting to see the tightening of global liquidity in the early signs of a banking crisis. And I talk about how in less than 2 weeks the Bank of Japan is about to raise rates and unwind the yen carry trade and drain liquidity. Complete opposite to what the herd believes is going to happen is going to happen. The herd believes QE is starting, and again, we're about to start a recession and seeing signs, early signs of another banking crisis. Things that the steps that the Fed are taking to prevent a banking crisis, the Moon Boys are calling QE. It's absolutely incredible. But then the unwinding of the yen carry trade will significantly drain global liquidity by forcing investors to sell riskier assets like stocks, tech, Bitcoin, crypto, and they'll even be forced to sell bonds. That's why I think we're going to get Jamie Dimon's crack in the bond market here in order to buy back yen. This will create rapid asset price drops, cause a tightening of financial conditions worldwide as funding flows back to Japan due to rising Japanese interest rates. The boys are delusional. And what I just told you a moment ago is not even what the Fed is saying they're going to do. The Fed has never said they're going to do that. It's a Moon Boy hoax. They're saying, the Fed's saying they're going to do this. That's what the Moon Boys are saying. B of A is predicting that will happen. We are going to get the Fed or the Japanese, the Bank of Japan likely raising rates, which will likely begin the unwinding of the yen carry trade. And this is going to create rapid asset price drops for cryptocurrencies, for the stock market. Bitcoin's going to get another couple legs down. But the hoax, the Fed's going to start QE. Liquidity's coming back. And again, about to start a recession. The Fed is doing stuff because they're trying to prevent one from happening. I asked about Ethereum and altcoins. And again, we saw Ethereum just move above the previous high. Bitcoin, the 2021 high, Bitcoin moved significantly above that level. The weekly chart for Ethereum. If we continue to move back, this is a trend line to be watching near the April low of 2025. If Bitcoin ends up taking out the April low, Ethereum might move back towards it. But the only hope I see, people ask me, well, Bitcoin's topped. Can Ethereum or altcoins still make new highs? The only hope I see for them is if Ethereum forms a divergence here. There was no divergence at this peak right here. It was an extreme. Now, there was a divergence back at this previous top. So the only hope I really see for Ethereum is that if it does something like what it did back over here, where we end up going to a new high and forming the divergence. Bitcoin already has it. Bitcoin's already confirmed a bear market in the weekly and the monthly time frame. Ethereum peaked just ahead of Bitcoin, and they diverged. So maybe that is it. It did not form a divergence here in the weekly time frame, but it certainly did diverge with Bitcoin. But again, the only hope I would see for Ethereum going higher is if it formed a divergence on things like the price oscillator here, maybe the MACD, if it attempted to recover, and the RSI here, tried to form a divergence in the weekly time frame and slightly moved above this high, and you got something very similar to over here. But we did get these peaks over here, and you ended up forming a larger divergence. You got a lower high. You do have, well, you don't have a divergence in the most recent price action here. You do have a larger one here from the peak over here. So do keep that in mind. We don't have to form a divergence at the top, but that would be the only hope I would see. If we have Bitcoin drop, when Bitcoin rallies up and gets a lower high, we end up getting a divergence with Ethereum somehow managing to move to a new high. That would be the only way I would see Ethereum moving to a new high, because sometimes Ethereum and Bitcoin do diverge from one another at turning points. Not always, but oftentimes. You might recall the 2022 bottom with Bitcoin. Ethereum got a higher low. They diverged at that bottom. Ethereum had dropped to the low earlier in 2022. So sometimes there are divergences. Now, we do have this larger divergence right now. Is that it? Or do we get one in the more recent price action? So I'm not going to rule out a new high with Ethereum. If we see them try to diverge here with this sell-off, and maybe we don't go all the way back down with Ethereum, but the risk is we do. But that's the only hope I see for Ethereum, again, is that it sometimes diverges with Bitcoin, even though we already have a larger divergence. Sometimes you might get one in the more recent price action. So the only hope I would see for Ethereum right now is if you saw a big sell-off and then you get this one final push higher as Bitcoin tries to rally once we reach the bottom, likely in January. I'd be predicting that, and it would just go just slightly above this level. If I'm not predicting that's going to happen, I'm just saying if it ends up getting a divergence with Bitcoin in the more recent price action. You do have this larger divergence on the price oscillator. MACD didn't form it. It went to a new high. It's based on moving averages. Price oscillator is so much better. You did get the divergence over here. You had the divergence here, the larger divergence that we have right now. You might get one in the more recent price action. Certainly possible. Don't want to rule that out because knowing the history that Ethereum does often diverge with Bitcoin. Sometimes they peak together, though, like they did back in November. Here, other times I've shown you in history where they do diverge from one another. Again, in the monthly time frame, you got this larger divergence. Do we get one here in the more recent price action that goes slightly above this level, going lower and then doing it or whatever? Or do we see a divergence with this current sell-off between the two as we did at the 2022 bottom? I'll be watching. Ethereum did peak before Bitcoin, before a recent October high, but they bottomed together here in April of 2025. They topped together in late 2022. So sometimes they top and bottom together. Other times they diverge. What will this be right here? We already have a divergence. It will end up being a larger one with Ethereum. Just something we're paying attention to. But again, the only reason why I'm saying that for Ethereum is because knowing the history that they do sometimes diverge from one another. However, if Ethereum continues to drop, then it may move so far away from the highs that that divergence in the weekly and the monthly time frame becomes impossible. The April lows down here, if Bitcoin ends up taking out the April lows, I think it's going to, Ethereum might move back towards it. Whether we could see the next big rally, when the Fed begins to do jumbo cuts that I think are coming in January, the herd and the move boys, they believe this is so bullish that we could see Ethereum, even if it does move down to the April low, still attempt to make new highs. We attempt to get that larger divergence in the weekly and monthly time frame. I don't know that we do, but I'm not ruling that out. So just to let you know, that's the only hope that I see for Ethereum, not moving sharply above this level, but moving back towards it, moving above it. I'm not predicting that happens. I'm just telling you it could happen if we see the divergence. And by January, I'm going to get very bullish. And if Ethereum ends up breaking out of this channel here, I would expect a new rally. So if Ethereum rallies up and gets a lower high, you want to be watching. If it bottoms out and you form a head and shoulders type looking pattern here with this peak, then you want to be watching this level right here. I don't think Ethereum goes lower. I've marked in a possible test of the April low and that trend line that we have on the weekly and the monthly time frame. There's no bullish divergence. You're likely going to see that happen. And again, we're going to get the Fed here this week, and you're likely going to get another sell-off with the Fed. Now, Ethereum had a divergence over here and peaked before Bitcoin. Bitcoin peaked in October. We got a lower high with Ethereum. Sometimes they form these divergences. Get back over here. In late 2024, Ethereum peaked, got a lower high in January. Bitcoin got a higher high. They diverged over here. So sometimes you get these divergences. Do we see that down here with this sell-off? Do we see a divergence where maybe Ethereum bottoms before Bitcoin? January, that's possible. So again, I'll be watching. And again, does Bitcoin try to bottom out above the April low in this area right here? Where we have some support, and I've marked that here. Or do we go down to that April low? So I'll be watching. Do we end up seeing some kind of divergence right now? Do we end up seeing a larger one on the weekly and the monthly time frame? But again, Ethereum's likely going lower. You're going to see the MACD form a divergence. I'm just telling you some things I'm watching. And again, we have, let me just bring up the RSI. We have the RSI it pegged in the negative region here. Again, there is no bullish divergence on the RSI. There's no bullish divergence on the MACD. You're likely going to see that form. But Ethereum could possibly bottom before Bitcoin. That's all I'm saying. And if it does, and we start the next rally come January or in the first quarter there of 2026, it's still possible that they diverge from one another. No guarantee of that, but that is the only hope that I see for Ethereum and for altcoins. Solana in a similar situation. Again, it's come up to the 2021 high and it has stalled there, and again it's turned down, struggling to get above the 2021 highs on Ethereum and on Solana. Bitcoin has moved higher, well above the 2021 highs. Weekly chart, we've broken this trend line from late 2020. If we just go back to Ethereum and go back further, again, you can see here in early 2020, we have a trend line that has not yet been broken. We have a trend line from late 2018 that is way down here that could eventually be where Ethereum might move to if these trend lines up here eventually break. So again, we'll be watching this sell-off with Ethereum and where do prices support. And this trend line, if we don't go to the April low, this trend line from early 2020 may come into play. Some things to be aware of. And again, I'm so bullish on Ethereum. I'm just saying, historically, Bitcoin and Ethereum sometimes diverge at turning points, so it's something worth watching. That's all I'm saying. Ethereum right now is in a downtrend in the daily time frame. Solana, breaking this trend line from late 2020 with the log scaling here. Now we saw Bitcoin move above the 2025 high, and Solana peaked there with Bitcoin in January, sold off, formed a bullish falling wedge, formed a rising wedge here, and it got a lower high, and again, now in a downtrend. So again, the only hope I really see for altcoins is if we go down to a January low, maybe they diverge with Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoins, bottom or whatever. The only hope I see for them is if we get this big rally, and it will be a powerful rally when the Fed begins jumbo cuts because the crypto herd believes that's so bullish. I think you're going to get a powerful rally. Come January, I'm going to turn very bullish for the short term because I think you'll likely rally January, February, March, maybe on into April. And then I think Bitcoin will get the bear market rally completed. But where are altcoins with that 3 or 4 month rally or so? I think that once we go lower, I think you could see some really good gains with Ethereum and really good gains with altcoins and, with Bitcoin in a bear market rally. But the question is, will they be able to move to new highs? Will Ethereum end up diverging with Bitcoin again? That I can't answer. I'll be watching these April lows. Will Solana be able to move above the peak here? And again, also diverged with Bitcoin. It peaked before Bitcoin. Do we see a divergence down here? Do we see altcoins and Ethereum peak before Bitcoin? Over here, it peaked with Bitcoin. Here at the same time as well. Some things to be paying attention to with altcoins, with Ethereum. And I'm just saying that, again, they may diverge with Bitcoin. They bottom in December and Bitcoin bottoms in January. Bitcoin could have more problems if MicroStrategy is removed from exchanges. I've talked about in my last update and have been talking about in great length and detail. I'm not saying altcoins will necessarily move to new highs, but again, come January or December, wherever they bottom, you could see a spectacular rally and possibly new highs if they try to get a larger divergence with Bitcoin. That is the only hope I see for altcoins and Ethereum. Here we did have a larger divergence between Bitcoin and Solana, in that it made a lower high, not being able to move above the January 2025 peak, and Bitcoin did move above that level. So no guarantee that you see Solana or altcoins or Ethereum move to new highs, but sometimes is what happens is Bitcoin peaks and Ethereum and altcoins peak just after Bitcoin. I don't know if that will be the case here. Other times they peak together, bottom together. It's just something to be paying attention to, something to watch. I am not predicting we go to new highs with altcoins. I'm not predicting we go to new highs with Ethereum. I'm just saying it is something that has happened in the past, so it's something I'm watching. About this stuff, and people have selective hearing. They pick and choose and cherry pick what you say. Oh, you're predicting Ethereum's going to go to new. That's not what I'm saying. If you hear that, you need to go get your hearing checked. That's not what I'm saying.